Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is KC, the Nigerian Nightmare, Onyebuchi, and the official minister of Combat Sports Talk, the Reverend John Keys.
I'm checking the windshield.
Reverend, apparently. No pressure.
Hey, man. Nobody gets on a soapbox and starts preaching better than you.
Okay. Next thing I need is a hang wire, and I just float in and, preaching from the rafter. Yeah.
Oh, man. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, I was kind of taken aback. I didn't even know how to respond to that, so I just put the video up there in Facebook land and just let it ride. So.
Oh, man. That's crazy. Flying preachers. There we go. All right.
Let's talk about some of these flying elbows.
Absolutely. So, the UFC traveled to the Middle Kingdom for a seismic rematch between heavyweight contenders Francis Ngannou and Curtis Blaydes. While loads of Chinese talent was on display, the heavyweights stole the show with two first-round finishes that are destined to be highlights for years to come. So let's take a moment to look at all the action from UFC Beijing in the official decision.
The official decision.
This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights from Saturday night and check out all of the results. UFC Fight Night Beijing, November 24th, 2018, from Cadillac Arena in Beijing, China. The first fight of the night was Li Jingliang, who defeated David Zawada via TKO in round 3. Song Yadong defeated Vince Morales via unanimous decision. In the co-main event, Alistair, the Demolition Man Overeem, defeated the Russian Sergey Pavlovich in round 1. Guys, my rule number 1, never bet against the Russians, failed me in this fight.
Well, I guess it is the exception that proves the rule, no?
Hey, it's the Demolition Man. What you expect, man?
No,
he look good.
So Sergey Pavlovich is definitely, he's full Russian, so he comes under the auspices of rule number 1, but this was like his UFC debut. He hasn't had a whole lot of fights. There are better Russians out there.
Debut against Alistair Overeem, though. I feel like that should have been, there should be some hierarchy to this thing. And your UFC debut, you probably shouldn't be expected to win if you're fighting a top 10 opponent.
Yeah, but then again, the UFC heavyweight division is so thin. I mean,
it reminds me of your hairline.
My hairline. I'm not the one that's got to walk, that has to walk around with a shaved head.
Oh, you got jokes.
I'm the one that chooses to shave my head. You have to shave the stuff that's still there.
Hey, that's why I said yours was thin versus mine, which is non-existent.
but I appreciate you trying to slide one of those in there. That's all right. I got you.
That's what you said.
So, in the post-fight interview, Alistair Overeem called out Derek Lewis as his potential next opponent and called him hot balls.
Yeah, loved it.
I don't know about that one, man. I have a problem referring to another man's genitalia.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think it's enough to get some attention. I like the fight. I don't often pick Derek Lewis. I feel like the most interesting man in the world. I don't often pick Derek Lewis, but when I do, it's against Alistair Overeem.
So you
would
would
be a
pick
very interesting.
Do what?
You pick Lewis over Reem on this one?
Yes.
Really?
Derek Lewis possibly lands the head kick.
Oh, in that case, I say Overeem all day. Put me on the book. Overeem is a tactician versus a guy like Derek Lewis.
Yeah, it's a tactician versus a brawler. I like the fight. I hope they put that together. I mean, we'll go into the next fight, but Overeem's definitely going to climb, a step up the ladder, even though his competition wasn't the greatest. It was definitely the dominant performance, and I like the fight. Derek's going to need somebody to fight. Why not? Why not Alistair? I guess the only other person he might fight would be Francis Ngannou, who defeated Curtis Blaydes via TKO in round 1. Now, this is the reason I was telling before the show. I was talking to KC and to John, and I was saying that I have a bone to pick, and I have a bone to pick with KC.
Oh man, come on! This was supposed to be John, not me.
No, I got a bone to pick with you, KC, because I went back and listened to the show from last week, and I detected that there was some tampering with the audio. I want you to listen to this, John, since you weren't there. Listen to this and tell me if this even remotely sounds like me. Here's my prediction. I got Curtis Blaydes in such a dominant fashion against Francis Ngannou that the conversation is going to elevate from Daniel Cormier versus Brock Lesnar, who I don't think is going to be able to make it to the octagon. And it's going to be, in his last fight, Daniel Cormier versus Curtis Blaydes for the heavyweight championship. That is my prediction.
Intriguing.
I told you, I believe that Curtis Blaydes is the future heavyweight champion of the UFC. I think he's going to make an impression on the fight game this weekend against Francis Ngannou, who is currently ranked at number 4. And I think when you get him ranked at number 4, that gives him an opportunity to get a title shot when Brock Lesnar isn't going to be able to be ready in time, and you've got a choice between Stipe Miocic, who got knocked out in the first round by Daniel Cormier, and someone who will have brutalized Francis Ngannou. I think they pick the Razor Blades. Okay, there is no way that was me. KC, I don't know what you did to my audio, but there's no way that was me. John, I want you to have my back on this. I did not say that.
Cue them crows, man. Where are the crows at? I need somebody. Somebody's eating some crow tonight. Yes.
I don't know. The game was pretty low on that. My man, you said that with the conviction of a new convert. Like,
I
wow.
know, man.
You couldn't
What
have
flavor was that Kool-Aid?
You were correct in one thing. Blaydes left an impression on the heavyweight division this week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was correct.
I don't even know what to say. Here's the worst part. Here's the worst part of it all. Because Francis Ngannou and Curtis Blaydes, they could have gone into the octagon. They could have fought for five rounds, and Blaydes could have lost by decision. I would have still had to eat crow. But the problem with this is the fact that Curtis Blaydes didn't even make the buffer factor.
Not even close.
Curtis Blaydes. So, we always, when we talk about the buffer factor, we always have to define the buffer factor. The buffer factor is a fight should last at least as long as it takes to announce it. It took Bruce Buffer 2 minutes and 2 seconds to announce the fight. Curtis Blaydes lasted 45 seconds. That means before Bruce Buffer could have finished announcing the fight, Curtis Blaydes would have been knocked out almost 3 times, 2.7 times.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to correct you, because they had 3 different times on there. Officially, Bruce Buffer called it at 25 or 30 seconds.
He called it at 25 seconds.
Screen, 25 seconds. On the screen, it said 45 seconds, and on ShareDog, it says 30. So it's one of those 3.
It got updated on ShareDog. I went and looked at it because I knew that the last time we disputed how long a fight lasts. I went back on ShareDog. It now says 45 seconds. I've seen 44 seconds, but you were correct. Bruce Buffer did announce it that night at 25 seconds. Had the fight only lasted 25 seconds, then the buffer factor would have increased to somewhere in the in like the 5 or 6 range. So,
ShareDog.
Yeah, we're going with the 2.7 buffer factor for Curtis Blaydes. So, my man.
What's intriguing about this fight, though, is I think Curtis Blaydes actually probably had a good fight plan coming into this. You saw his fakes at the takedown with an immediate left overhand that looked like he was just inches away from connecting twice. So the game plan was there to get Francis Ngannou worried about the takedowns and stressed out about it. But Francis stayed in the pocket, and everyone saw the right hand, but it was really the jab that absolutely stunned Curtis Blaydes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all in, just an amazing fight from Francis, but I don't want to take away from the game plan that Curtis Blaydes put together.
Well, I mean, they were talking about the fact that Curtis Blaydes said he wanted to set the record for the number of takedowns in a heavyweight fight. The game plan was there. I agree with you, except I don't feel like Curtis really committed to showing the takedown. He didn't have a lot of chances. I mean, the fight lasted 45 freaking seconds, but yeah. His first attempt at a takedown just seemed lackluster. And it's, if you're going to try to fake a takedown, you have to be a legitimate threat for a takedown. And that means you got to at least grapple, push him up against the cage, let him fight, to sprawl or something like that, to at least show that it's possible. By the time he tried to do that again, the fight was already over.
Yeah, but that first attempt was pretty much in the middle of the octagon.
Yeah.
And no one wants to have to risk having Francis Ngannou hit you with an uppercut. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to let that one pass. I totally would have faked that one too.
All right. So, just for one last time. So that it's nice and clear. Yes, I drank the Kool-Aid and ended up dead.
I think you ought to let that run for like the full 45 seconds that, so
the fight
really adjust it. Yeah, exact the whole fight distance. I mean,
I
we
mean,
should make that a rule.
The length of the drop for eating crow is almost as long as Curtis Blaydes lasted. So, you're right. I could play it like 3 more times and it will have played longer than he lasted. So for the sake of my sanity, let's go ahead and close the book on this one and put it on the shelf, because thankfully this card is history. Now, let's look at what people are talking about in the MMA world with Finding the Angles.
Finding the Angles.
This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines and topics that are being talked about in the UFC in the wake of the action from this weekend. Guys, I know that people are saying, hey, what's going on? Why are they only talking about that one fight? Why are they talking about Golden Boy MMA, which featured 2 UFC former champions, Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, in you can't call it a rubber match. It's the third fight, but Chuck Liddell won the first 2. So
yeah,
true.
So, this was the fight to end all. This was the triple or nothing. Let's call it that. The triple or nothing rematch.
Fair enough.
And so there, we had talked about this last week. Basically, of all the predictions I got wrong, there was one that I got right, which was Chuck Liddell had no reasons for being in the hexagon.
All right.
And I counted them too. There was a hexagon.
Yeah, I was counting.
I counted.
48-year-old Chuck Liddell, who'd been off for like 5 years, was going up against his biggest rival, Tito Ortiz, whom he'd had a 2-0 record against, kind of like the record that I hold over KC.
The operative word here.
Yeah, except I'm smart enough not to get in the ring for a third time.
Whatever. Anyway, moving along.
So let's just get into it. Tito Ortiz defeated Chuck Liddell in the first round via knockout. And this was a terrible fight. Like, this was about as good as you think that 2 people in their mid to late 40s would fight in the octagon.
This wasn't even as good as a bar fight. It really wasn't.
No, it was bad. I'll be the first to say it. I've always been a proponent for a Masters division. I have for old school UFC fighters, 40 and over. But this right here, you can definitely tell that time and concussions have taken a toll of Chuck Liddell. Okay. Yeah. And it was, Tito, he looked as good as he was going to look for a man 40 years old. Chuck Liddell at 48, he was slow. It was looking lethargic. I mean, don't get me wrong, he looked in great shape, but his mind was faster than his body.
He ran for the round was 5 minutes long. He ran for 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, and it was just bad. It was bad. So let's give it up to Tito. It took him 18 plus years to get him. So there you go.
So John Jones responded after this outcome. He said he's not responding to Liddell call-outs anymore. I thought that was a pretty funny. There was a lot of people reacting to it, but I thought that was the funniest one.
Wow.
Dana, that would be sad to watch John Jones. I don't think that lasts the 45 seconds.
No.
John Jones versus Chuck. And you can take no pride in that win.
It would last longer than 45 seconds because Chuck Liddell would run for 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Jones would come off.
I'm just saying, he was running, and then he wasn't running very well. He fell like once. I'm like, wow, this is terrible. Dana White was all over De La Hoya after this. He was like, and the California State Athletic Commission. He said Chuck Liddell is almost 50 years old and has no business fighting anymore. The fact that the state of California let that fight happen is disgusting. It's disgusting. Chuck Liddell has an incredible legacy. He's a huge superstar. Anyone who claims to be a friend of Chuck Liddell and was anywhere near that fight is full of poop. They're not a friend of Chuck Liddell. To let him go in and fight this fight is terrible. I agree with them.
I disagree.
You don't let...
Here's the thing. No, Chuck should not fight. I had no interest in paying for the fight. I was only going to hear the recaps because I don't want to put in on it. But the reality is, as a business guy, if this promotion had if De La Hoya had any real experience in promoting promoting an MMA fight, this could have been a huge deal, like a great legacy match. But instead, it was just like two old guys fighting in a backyard. If done correctly, this could have added to the legacy for both of these guys. But instead, it was a lackluster event with zero build-up, no storyline to it. Most of the people watching the fight probably couldn't understand the history going into it. So there was potential for this to be a great thing for both of them to end on, but instead it was just petering out of two great careers.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just
right.
It
shouldn't happen.
I don't. First. Yeah, the fight shouldn't happen. But I don't know how you make this more compelling to even the casual MMA fan. Because what you're doing is you're showing you have to show video of what Liddell did 10 years ago. You got to show video of Tito Ortiz, doing stuff that have, you're looking at it in standard def. This happened so long ago.
Yeah. VHS.
Yeah. I'm talking about you got vertical black bars on the sides of the video when Chuck Liddell was great. Okay.
So you're right. That's what Oscar De La Hoya should have did. However, it was so amateurish that he didn't even know the other fighters' names that he had a promotion for. He literally just looked like he showed up and was just like, oh yeah, these guys over here are gonna fight. Oh, and there's Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Take it away, guys. And that was it. It was horrible. It was probably the Paul Heyman could have came and did that better. That's all I got to say about
Paul Heyman. Man, WWE. Wow. Hey, all I got to say is the promotion for this fight ranks somewhere around UFC Fight Kit.
Oh, that was trash.
See, when I listen, that's why I'm saying it's like this is the ends. Like I do need to get that drop. I thought I had that drop somewhere. I'm about to see if I can find it. But that is now the new insult. When you fail to promote and you fail to do a good job, backing your fighters, then you're gonna get the UFC fight kit.
UFC fight kit. Just
all right,
back to back, nothing else.
Yeah, that's nothing else. Just that, yeah.
UFC
fight kit. Speaking of old people who don't need to be fighting in the octagon because it can get worse. Because you have Chuck Liddell, who's 48. You got Tito Ortiz, who's 43. Both of those guys shouldn't be in the octagon. But what happens when you take somebody who's 43 years old and you stick them in there with probably one of the most dominant future champions? And I'm not talking about Curtis Blaydes.
I'm so ready to push record on this. I need this drop.
I'm talking about Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya coming up at UFC 234 in Australia in 2019. If there was ever a bad booking, this is it.
I don't know, man. I don't
really?
know.
Are you guys giving any juice to Anderson Silva? That
100%.
Well, see, you used the operative word, juice. Okay, and yes, I think he should be juiced up for this one. I mean, his urine should have the consistency of a Red Bull. Seriously, I mean, he needs to be juiced for this one. Okay, because this is going to be a great fight. But if he comes in there like clean and so, I don't know. I don't know.
Here's why I disagree. Israel is an amazing kickboxer. He truly is. Anderson Silva's ground game is pretty awesome itself, and he knows how to get there. He's got the skill, the time. He's not going to get drawn into this really fast pace. Let's just go at it one for one. He knows how to slip and be elusive. He is the spider. And if he is able to duck under a kick and go for a single leg and take this to the ground, this might be game over for Israel.
Do you really believe no, this is crazy.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Like, you can't really believe that Anderson Silva is going to be able to keep the pace with Israel Adesanya.
He doesn't have to keep the pace. I don't think he can keep the pace. I think he's elusive enough to back himself up against the wall, rope-a-dope, slip under a kick, and single leg this man. No, that's how it's going down.
Listen, I wish we were making picks tonight, because all I know is that I am saving this drop and I am going to play this for you before we do flash fight picks, just to remind you what you have just said. Because the fact is that
in preparation for this, I've been watching Silva's training.
It is slow. Are you watching it on fast forward so it's normal speed?
Oh, it's wicked slow, but his elusivity is still there. People haven't figured that out.
Chris Weidman sure did.
Chris Weidman did not. Okay.
John Jones did. You know, we were making comparisons with Israel Adesanya and John Jones. I know that he doesn't want to be compared to it, but the analog to Israel Adesanya is John Jones, and I think that is a compliment. You know, because Israel Adesanya is the clean John Jones.
Oh, we don't know that yet.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
time will tell.
He hasn't been. He hasn't popped yet, so he's still good.
I love that. Normally, Israel talks just mad noise. Like, this is a man who's beholden to no rule set. He talks noise on a level that I think he will soon rival the great Conor McGregor. There's no holds barred with him. However, he did have a tip of the cap towards Anderson Silva in the booking of this fight, saying that he loved watching Silva growing up and seeing him fight and just absolutely finishing people in the octagon. So this to him is like Jordan matching up with LeBron. And I love that. I love that imagery there, because it's an old timer who's towards the end. But he's still got something in the pan. Like, Jordan can still light you up. So you just never know. Like, you got to respect it in the same way that when Cormier got into the ring with to the octagon with Silva, you saw how respectful Cormier was. You just have to respect that.
What happened? Did the fight go beyond the first round? I don't remember what the outcome was, but I know the outcome was Anderson Silva lost that fight. Like, this is the whole thing, right? Is that there is a respect for someone, because this ultimately is a sport that was built upon arts that are all about respecting elders, respecting the people who've come before you. It's about respect. So Israel Adesanya, that is what he is supposed to do. We expect him to respect Anderson Silva and what Anderson Silva accomplished. But the fact is that there is no reason that when you stack these two people up, there is no reason Anderson Silva should even be still fighting in the UFC.
Except for he's one of the baddest men ever.
He was one of the baddest men ever. His head movement was something that was a puzzle, an enigma wrapped in a puzzle. But now he is a normal human being. This is Michael Jordan playing for the Washington Wizards. This is not the 6-time world champion Michael Jordan, who was unstoppable. And so we can say that Michael Jordan is the greatest. We can say that. But the fact is that he was an average man whenever he was playing with the Washington Wizards. And the Anderson Silva that's going to walk into the ring against one of the most dynamic strikers in the UFC is going to be proven to be just an average Joe. And that is a compliment.
I love the conviction that you used, because last time, let's save this too. Let's save this part.
Because last time we looked at someone who thought they could still move and still do it. We saw them get dropped like a sack of potatoes. And that's why, and I want to end this with the Ben Folks MMA Junkie article. Why does the fight game always insist on cannibalizing its old to feed its young? It's a wonderful article. It kind of goes through how this continues to happen, and we have this hope. We continue to have this hope that we see one more spark of greatness from these people who are past their prime. And the fact is that more times than not, they are who we thought they are.
Okay.
UFC is opening a
harsh, man.
Listen, I know I'm coming off as the guy that hates Anderson Silva, and I don't want to be that guy. I'm not that guy. I respect Anderson Silva as much as the next person. However, we're talking about a fight against somebody who really should be fighting, Jacare Souza, who should be fighting someone like, and you yourself said, KC, on Instagram, you were like, this is pretty much an insult for Israel Adesanya. He should be fighting an actual contender instead of someone like Anderson Silva.
100%.
So from a booking perspective, this is one of those things where we're giving one more tip of the hat to Anderson Silva. Perhaps what this is his final fight in the UFC, and we're going to see him retire and put the gloves in the middle of the ring after this event.
I don't think so.
He better.
No, he had a plan to finish out his contract, and I think he has the will and desire to do so. Depends on how badly he gets beat. I'm saying that despite my last statement, depending on how badly he's beaten to death. I mean, I don't see him hanging up his gloves anytime soon.
Win or lose, I think this should be the last fight for Anderson Silva, because if he wins, he's winning against someone who I have hold in very high regard, and I think that he has a bright future in the UFC in Israel Adesanya. If you beat Israel Adesanya, hang up the gloves, because it ain't getting any better than this. If you lose to Israel Adesanya,
that man should get a title shot. Are you kidding me?
If you lose,
okay. No. Look.
If you lose to Israel Adesanya, if you lose to Israel Adesanya, then just hang it up, because it's only going to get worse.
Or go to Bellator and fight.
Ha! There you go. Go to Bellator, fight Gegard Mousasi for that middleweight championship. See how that goes.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move on.
He should can't get up.
Yeah. Right. So UFC opening a 93,000 square foot performance institute in China. This is 3 times larger than the giant 30,000 square foot Vegas Performance Institute. basically they are going to start cultivating a legion of future MMA fighters from China. I am impressed.
I'm not impressed by the Performance Institute.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Very nice. John, what do you think?
My God, they're not joking when they say legion. Okay, that is huge. That's 193,000 square feet. They said they were going to do events in there as well. That's where they're going to do most of their events when they come to China. My God, man. And they were showing like the 3D diagram of that place. I was like, I wish my house was that big.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? I never have to leave, ever.
Yeah, Dana White's saying... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go right here. Go right.
No. Dana White's saying that they're going to do a Chinese version of The Ultimate Fighter there. They're going to do a Tuesday night contender type show. He's like, anything I can think of that we can use this Performance Institute for, we will use it for. Like, this was, if you remember back to what I was talking about the Performance Institute, what they should do, this is what I have always said, is that the UFC needs to start opening performance institutes. There should be a West Coast Institute, an East Coast Institute, where you're cultivating fighters and they're fighting in these smaller regional promotions, and you're nurturing all of this talent to create a funnel of talent for your big show. There should be a performance institute in Brazil. There should be one in Europe, perhaps in Stockholm or something like that, maybe in London. And then one in China, and you've got the Asian fighters, you've got the South American fighters, European fighters, and then the crop of American fighters both on the East and West Coast. That's what the UFC should be doing, and they should never have talent problems ever again.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, that's if they actually invest that way. I think that this is a great start, and having such a large investment in China means that Dana White's less likely to shift strategy. But, I mean, he's failed before.
Well, hey, John, I got a question for you. So,
okay, what's up?
I was reading something, and it was saying that Dana White, whenever they were talking about the trade between Ben Askren and Demetrius Johnson to ONE FC, that Dana White was like, you don't understand how big ONE FC is. He said that whenever he goes over to Asia and he tells them that he's the president of the UFC, they're like, oh, is that like ONE FC?
Yes.
Here's my question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Here's my question for you. Mm-hmm. With the UFC opening a 93,000 square foot performance institute in China, do you think that the UFC becomes a rival for ONE FC?
Oh, I thought you had something else behind it. Yes, if they're not our rival already. ONE FC, from what we see, it's a shame that we don't see more ONE FC promotions here on the mainland, because they have some really good fights. They are trying to become bigger than the UFC over in that area, if not in not just Asia, but in Europe as well. These guys are a monster over there. Okay, so yeah, I expect that they're going to take over and hopefully do what Pride tried to do back in the day, which is become a monster, a giant of martial arts. And they're doing it in the mecca of martial arts. And, so I like that. Let's see what happens. Okay. The UFC has been a giant here for so long that it needs competition now, because it's become complacent, in my opinion.
Dang. All right. Casey, you got anything to add to that?
I don't believe that the UFC will become dominant for a long time in Asia. I just don't. They've neglected that market for so long that it's great to invest heavily, but that ROI is going to take some time to be there. Unless, of course, it all comes down to TV rights. If they get the right TV rights, you get enough eyeballs on this thing, then yeah. But I think you're also going to have to change your format from this big ego thing and make it truly about what ONE FC has done well, which is really good fights, and your storylines create themselves. You don't have to manufacture all of this fake Twitter stuff, as you see Tony Ferguson kind of talking back and forth with followers that he's become too WWE. Like, that's just where the UFC's come from, and I don't think that that's going to work in another market.
All right. Hey, so, on a more somber note, we actually didn't talk about this when it originally broke the story, which was the Rachel Ostovich injury that she sustained as a victim of domestic abuse. Basically, on November 18th, it was announced that she was that she had contacted the police that she was injured in an attack by her husband, who's also an MMA fighter, and it put her in jeopardy of fighting on the first ESPN UFC card versus Paige Van Zandt on January 19th. The police have gotten involved. This is now going and seeing its way through the courts. Her husband, who was the alleged assailant, is now putting his plea of not guilty, and this will probably go to trial. The reason why this is a story for us, we don't want to spend too much time talking about the brutality of what Rachel went through, but this is a story because Paige Van Zandt, who was her opponent for January 19th, tweeted out today that Rachel Ostovich is still going to fight despite having injuries sustained from this attack by her husband. This is amazing. There's one this good way. But you're saying not in a good way. This says to me one of two things. Either Rachel Ostovich is just the most hardcore fighter that has ever walked this earth, or Paige Van Zandt is that easy to defeat.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. I mean, honestly, there's no honor in this for Paige to take this fight. Why would you even continue to let this fight happen? For so many reasons, this is a trash situation. Like, congratulations, Paige Van Zandt. You beat up someone who literally was coughing up blood before the fight. Like, what?
I agree.
How is that an honorable victory? And for Dana White to allow this to happen after saying that Chuck Liddell shouldn't have fought, how are you letting a fighter who's coming off of a broken orbital bone less than 2 months from this fight, you want that person in the octagon? Like, that man has no honor.
Yeah. Shame on Dana for this one. As far as Rachel, yeah, she's legit hardcore. No doubt about it. But she's gotta, swallow her pride on this and say, I can't fight. I'll fight when I'm healed, because this is a no. And understand that's horrible what happened to her. And, maybe she's doing this to show that she won't be, she won't let something like this drag her down. But there comes a point where you have to look at the bigger picture and say, I can't do this because I have a broken orbital bone and I don't want to blink like Koscheck for the rest of my life. Okay. I need to just rest, heal up, and then I'll come back.
Wow. I am impressed by both of your takes on this. I agree that this says more about Paige Van Zandt, who's willing to fight someone who's gone through this trauma, and this says more about Dana White, who's willing to continue to sanction this fight in spite of what's gone on, and less about Rachel Ostovich. I completely agree with you guys, and well put for both of your perspectives there. I'm blown away there.
If Paige Van Zandt really wants to fight on January 19th, Macy Barber is available in training right now.
Well, Macy Barber, we've heard that name before. Does she trains out of
Factory X?
Oh, brother, here we go.
Yeah, I tell you. I mean, we need a sponsor from there.
Yeah. Talk to Coach. What's his name? Coach Montoya. We need a sponsorship. You keep repping freaking Factory X.
Tell you.
No, but seriously, watch Macy Barber's training stuff right now. Like, she's going to be amazing, and she deserves a shot against Paige Van Zandt.
So the UFC is still undecided on the fate of flyweight. I think that was an interesting. Bloody Elbow had an interesting article where they quoted Dana White saying people just didn't care about the UFC flyweight division. He said the flyweight division just never took off. It never caught on. Even with a dominant champion like Demetrius, it just never caught on. People didn't care. I battled it for a long time. I tried to keep it alive, and obviously it's still going on now. We still have fights going on in that division, but we'll see what the future holds for it. John, I'm going to go to you. Is this just promo talk? Like, this is just the stuff that people say while they try to get all their contracts and legalities in a row before they kill this whole division, right?
Right. That's exactly right. People care about the lighter weights in Asia at ONE FC. I expect to see a good chunk, if not all of the flyweights over there soon. Okay, I think what he's doing right now, he's just playing out the guys who have contracts left that he's going to release. He's going to let them play out and then let them go. Okay, the ones that aren't fighting, those are the ones that he's going to keep and have them train up to the next what's the next weight?
It's
to 35.
It's bantamweight.
35. Okay. Yeah. So that looks like what the plan is going to be, and and it's a business decision. I'm not going to say it's the right decision. It's a business decision. I think it was a poor choice to let them go because they could have been promoted very easily. There are a lot of great fighters in that division. It's the UFC's fault for not promoting them properly. But then again, that's the consistent thing that we're saying about a lot of the good fighters in the UFC is that they're not properly promoted. So that is the number one weakness of the UFC.
All right. Henry Cejudo versus TJ Dillashaw for the 125-pound belt is still on UFC 233 in Anaheim, January 26, 2019. KC, are you exhausted by this? Like, for me, it's like, why are they even fighting for a belt that's going to be defunct after this fight happens? Because Cejudo wants to go up to 135. Dillashaw already is the 135 champion. Having a 125-pound belt doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, it's useless. Absolutely useless. But I will say this. I'm slowly becoming a Dillashaw fan. I said to make up for all the hate that I've had. Like, this is a useless fight. There's clearly it's a useless fight because of the belt. Am I interested in the two fighting? 100%. But I think that there's a fake buildup around it.
There is a point to this. There is a point. Okay. Well, first of all, like you, I am becoming a Dillashaw fan just because of his martial lineage. He's training in Bang. Bang is Boss Rutan's. That's the Boss Rutan fighting system, and I'm a big fan of it. All right. So by nature, by default, I'm becoming a fan of Dillashaw, and I don't even like the dude, but I respect his fighting style. Okay. So with that said, the fight is useful because what they're trying to do, they're trying to eliminate any type of questions about anybody that's coming from 25 to 35. Dillashaw is going down there to take the belt, hopefully, okay, and make it unify the 25 and the 35, so there won't be any type of loose connections there, saying that he's not a legitimate champ. If there are all these fighters coming here, he's got to fight those guys as well. He's solidifying the position.
All right, for me, it's like this is a dumb fight. There's been some rumbles that Tyron Woodley is looking at this card as well, trying to get the fight with Colby Covington in January 26th. Perhaps they just cut this fight and let the main event be Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. That's what I'd like to see, but his hand is still
I'd love
healing.
to see both of them. Yeah, I would love to see both of them on that card. Those are two great fights. Okay, I would love to see that. And if they're on the same card, amen.
I mean, I'm interested in the Henry Cejudo TJ Dillashaw fight. I'm just not interested in the fact that they're trying to build this as a championship fight, because this really doesn't. The belt doesn't matter. It ends on January 27th.
We'll see. Like I said, I something tells me that they're trying to make Dillashaw a legitimate champ. Okay, on both divisions. So when they do absorb the 25 into the 35, that there won't be any type of question.
All right. Let's get into the fight card. These are the fights that are coming up this weekend. We've got the Ultimate Fighter finale. Let's talk about it in the fight card. This weekend, we've got the Ultimate Fighter finale heavy hitters. Rafael dos Anjos versus Kamaru Usman. It's happening on Friday night, November 30th, at the Pearl, at the Palms Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. This card has everybody and their cousin on it. There are almost 10 fights on this card. I did want to call out one fight that got canceled. This was supposed to be the Boston Salmon versus Khalid Taha. I just didn't know that there was a person in the UFC whose name was Boston Salmon.
Pretty much.
And that's not even his fight name. His fight name is Boom Boom. Like, I would just go with Boston the Fish.
Because I was like, is that a typo? When I was looking, I was like, well, I'll make a seafood joke out of it somewhere. But
yeah, I literally thought this guy was I thought it was a typo too. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there really is a Boston Salmon. Who names their child that?
Wow.
I'm sure it's Salmon. I mean, maybe it's Boston Salmon.
Maybe it's salmon croquette. How about that?
So yeah, that fight got canceled from the card, but there are still a lot of fights. Raoni Barcelos versus Chris Gutierrez.
Out of Factory X.
I was waiting for that. Tim Means versus Ricky Rainey. You got Roosevelt Roberts versus Daryl Horcher. Joseph Benavidez, and I'm going to stop right here and just apologize right now for how I have butchered Joseph Benavidez' name. I've called him James Benavidez. I've even called him Dennis Benavidez because of Dennis Bermudez. I even accused him of missing weight a couple of weeks ago when Ray Borg missed weight instead. So my sincerest apologies to you, Joseph Benavidez. I wish you good luck in this fight against Alex Perez. That's it. Rick Glenn versus Kevin Aguilar. You got Ji Young Kim versus Antonio Shevchenko. This is the older sister of Valentina Shevchenko, who's going to be fighting pretty soon. I think that's coming up in December, first week of December, right? Or is it It's the last week of December. One of the two. It's in December. Darren Stewart. Oh, you got something?
No.
Okay.
No.
Darren Stewart versus Edmund Shabazian. Pedro Munhoz versus Brian Caraway. Brian Caraway was the former boyfriend of Misha Tate, but he successfully screwed that up.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
What? Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance?
No, she's married now and has a kid.
Married dude.
Oh,
yeah, man.
Fam?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, so she's got a kid. I could be instant dad.
Yeah, well, no, she's got a significant other. He's sticking around. He knows not to screw that up. So there you go, Brian Caraway. He's fighting Pedro Munhoz, and in the main event of the evening, Rafael dos Anjos versus Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman. All right, we got a flash fight pick.
Okay, yeah, fight pick first.
Okay. I'm going to go with you, John. Who you got? Rafael dos Anjos versus Kamaru Usman.
Kamaru Usman.
All right. KC.
You know they say in Igbo, Nigeria, Niger, you know they carry last.
Wow. Very nice. So you have Rafael dos Anjos, huh?
Kamaru.
You got
Why'd you
Cameron
make
Usman.
my whole Igbo accent came completely out? I was like, yeah. I will have Kamaru Usman, please.
All right. Well, I've got Cameron Usman. I was on Instagram, trying to get some love for the show on Cameron's post. You notice I hashtagged it 100%. So
I get it now.
So, I really think that he should have a shirt that his walkout shirt should say 100%, just 100%. That's all it should say.
Actually, I feel like it should just be a battery level, and then he just fills it in randomly before the fight.
Who is that?
Awesome.
Who is that guy on Facebook that does this 1 minute documentaries, and he's got like that, a battery power shirt, and it's colored in at random levels while he does these shows. I don't know what it is. I have to find it for next week, but that is a perfect idea. All right, we are all on the Kamaru Usman train. I really do believe that if Kamaru Usman wins this fight, then he should be the person who fights the winner of Tyron Woodley. Because he's going to win. Tyron Woodley is not going to freaking lose to Colby Covington. So he's going to fight Colby. He's going to fight Tyron Woodley.
I was waiting, and I was like, did he hang up? I was like, what the heck?
I'm just saying. Like we don't even need to. He's going to fight the winner, which is Tyron Woodley.
No, that's not the thing, though. I feel like the way that 2018 is going, Covington might win.
Whoa, man. Really?
For the record, I mean, a lot of stuff has gone wrong lately. Just the world is coming to an end. So,
man, what Ouija board have you been messing with? Man?
Yes,
okay,
stay away from it. We don't need that smoke. We don't want that smoke.
Not only is Colby going to win, but he will be congratulated ringside by DJT.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
All right, let's stop right there before you start speaking, making this stuff happen by making it manifest in the world, and now it's.
Don't you put that evil on me?
Yeah.
That's right. All right, follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan,
and on Instagram, I am at Push Pull Pray.
And John Keys is
at Keys to Victory that's Keys with the ES.
All right. I am at Combat Sports Talk on Instagram. You can check out the website at www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Instagram. I love Spotify. You can find us on Spotify as well. We got merchandise on Amazon. Just go to the website and click the merchandise link. It's the easiest way to find our stuff. And we have a new section on our website for live events where you can hear the double champ, George G Money Stallworth, break down the fights as they're happening. It's super interesting. Go and check out what we've got up there in our archives. Anything else, guys?
Now you've got the juice.
All right. Here we go. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For Casey Onyebuchi and John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.